The film begins with Sasha and her husband Ace inside their tent. And the shocking part is that when it opens, we find them at the top of an extremely high mountain. And when Sasha looks up, she realizes this isn't even the summit yet, and that there's still a much greater distance ahead of them. And she feels excited and asks Ace to continue the climb, telling him the weather is perfect and the sun is shining everywhere. And he agrees, and we see them climbing together across the solid rocks of the mountain, with Sasha positioned above Ace because they can't be at the same level. And suddenly, she fails to get past a certain rock and falls. And strangely, Ace doesn't react with surprise, but instead tells her to be careful or she'll get herself killed. And from Sasha's reaction, we understand that she has tried many times before and failed each time to pass that same slope. And the reason she is here is because she refuses to feel like a failure and desperately wants to overcome it. So she keeps trying again and again until Ace finally asks her to stop, but she completely refuses. So he reminds her that she has a climbing partner and isn't alone, and that the weather is starting to change, so they need to stop and set up the tent. Enough attempts for now, and they go inside as the weather becomes extremely cold, which worries Ace even more. But Sasha has a different opinion, questioning why they should stop climbing just because of a bit of rain or wind, until Ace finally snaps and asks how long they're going to keep risking their lives like this, because he doesn't know if he can handle it anymore. And when Sasha tries to calm him down and tells him it's just like every climb they've done before, he insists there's no need to keep putting themselves in danger. And eventually, they agree to descend the next day once the weather calms down. But ironically, they choose the worst moment during a violent storm to go down. And we see them descending step by step, making sure one secures the other so they're never at the same level. And Sasha goes first, but she doesn't anticipate that chunks of ice will start falling from the mountain due to the storm. And before she properly secures Ace, she tells him she's fine and that he can start descending. But when she realizes something is wrong with the rope and tries to warn him, it's already too late, as Ace begins his descent and suddenly falls right in front of her eyes without any proper support, crashing against the mountain slope and losing consciousness instantly, while Sasha screams for him to wake up as the rope begins slipping from her hands and she struggles to hold it. But it's useless, and in a horrifying moment, she watches him fall completely as the rope gives out. And we realize just how high the mountain is as Ace's life comes to a tragic end. 5 months later, we see Sasha after completing her last climb and heading out again for another expedition, but this time into a forest. And she remembers her conversations with Ace and decides to return to the exact place where he fell, a vast national park. And when she goes to get a permit, the officer warns her that going there is entirely her responsibility and tells her to first look at the photos of missing people. And while shopping for camping supplies to prepare for staying there until she can recover Ace's remains, since his body was shattered and the authorities only placed a memorial near where he likely fell, she encounters 2 men, one of them extremely intrusive and trying to flirt with her, while the other watches silently, and then steps in, telling her they know the forest very well and can help her. But she keeps her responses short and distant, so he backs off and leaves. Yet later on the road, she ends up needing his help when she can't figure out the route, so she calls him and asks for directions, and he responds by asking whether she wants the easy way or the hard way, which confuses her, so she tells him she wants the best way, and he gives her detailed directions, but also suggests a shortcut that would let her camp by the river, which she appreciates. And on her way, she stops to rest and notices she has pepper spray in her bag. And then she sees a vehicle approaching with dead foxes hanging from it. And shockingly, it's the same group of men who start harassing her and making her uncomfortable until she locks herself inside her car. And although they eventually leave, she sees them in the mirror, skinning the foxes, which terrifies her. So she decides to rest for the night, and by morning, they are gone. So she leaves her car behind and continues on foot along the river, enjoying the dive into the water and even doing a small climb. And eventually, she reaches the location where Ace fell, staring at his photo in pain because his remains were never recovered, and she wants to bring him back from a place he never even liked. Then, remembering the advice she was given, she decides to camp by the river. But during the night, she wakes up suddenly to the sound of a bird, frightened to step outside her tent. And when she finally does, she discovers her bag is missing, which shocks her. And as she turns back, she notices something moving inside the tent, only to realize it's a snake, forcing her to leave everything behind and continue moving along the river once again. She soon notices that someone else had camped in the same area, so she immediately heads down to the river and then into the forest, hoping to find help. And she actually comes across a small cabin with a fire burning outside and signs that someone is preparing a meal, and suddenly Ben appears in front of her. The same man who guided her earlier, as if he had intentionally led her here, and he approaches her with a friendly smile and greets her. And when she tells him she heard a strange sound like a bird and that her bag was stolen, he explains that it's a specific animal in the forest that communicates through that sound, joking with her, a bit to ease her nerves and assuring her that she's safe with him, which makes Sasha start to believe him, especially when she realizes her bag couldn't have been taken by an animal if it was hung high. So Ben reassures her further and tells her he has everything she might need and that they can share supplies, inviting her to sit with him outside his cabin as he prepares food, and he serves her dried meat. And when she mentions she already ate some the night before and liked it, he casually calls it by a woman's name, which confuses her. So she asks if that's really what it's called, only to be shocked when he explains that it's his mother's name because he loved her so much. He named the meat after her. And at that moment, Sasha feels deeply uneasy, sensing something is wrong. And when she starts connecting the details from how he knew the exact path she would take to how he described everything so precisely, it becomes clear that he is not who he seemed to be. And as he offers her water collected from a tree, she grows more suspicious, realizing he isn't just a camper, but someone who lives here permanently, which makes her cautious. But his calm tone and strange charm lower her guard again, and he continues talking about how much she loves adventure and how rare it is to find someone who understands that feeling. And while she listens, he suddenly slips in a comment about her husband, Ace, implying that since his death, she hasn't been able to face mountains the same way, which instantly changes her expression. And when she reacts, he pretends he was only joking to lighten the mood, but it's clear something is off. So to push back, she tells him about the men who harassed her at the supermarket and hints that one of them might have taken her bag. But Ben reacts strangely, as if surprised she suspects someone else, and then begins mentioning details of what happened to her with unsettling accuracy, describing how she locked herself in the car and how scared she really was. And in that moment, Sasha freezes, realizing he knows far too much, and suddenly his expression shifts completely, the friendly smile fading into something dark, his eyes becoming sharp and threatening, revealing his true nature at last. Terrified, Sasha decides to leave immediately, but Ben stops her and tells her to wait because he has something for her. And in that moment, she notices the bracelet Ace had given her in his hand, realizing he was the one who took her bag. And when he sees her staring, he casually admits it's hers, saying it's not the best quality, but it works, which fills her eyes with tears from fear as she tries to stay calm. But instead of letting her go, he runs to the cabin, throws her bag outside, and steps out holding a weapon that allows him to shoot arrows from a long distance, then plays music on his phone and mockingly tells her to take her bag and that he'll give her a chance, saying this is the adventure she wanted and reminding her that she chose this path, revealing the meaning behind his earlier question. And as he dances wildly and mimics the animal sounds he mentioned before, she grabs her bag and runs for her life, jumping into a kayak and paddling through the river as fast as she can while he continues dancing before finally chasing after her with disturbing excitement. And despite her strength, the rough current and sharp rocks make it hard to keep control until she eventually falls into the water and struggles to survive, barely managing to reach the shore, where she suddenly hears voices and runs toward them, only to find a phone playing a video of a family that had been there before. And in the footage, they are seen greeting Ben, which confirms her worst fear that he killed them. And before she can process it, an arrow is shot at her, as Ben tracks her movements perfectly through the forest, turning everything into a deadly game as he continues firing and injuring her from a distance until she escapes again into the river, where the strong waterfalls nearly overwhelm her. But she manages to survive once more, only to realize the danger isn't over, because Ben is more relentless than any force of nature around her. So she gathers her strength, checks her pepper spray, and runs again until she reaches a rocky cave, where she begins climbing desperately, stretching her body across the widening gaps in the rock until she finally reaches the top of the mountain, hoping it will lead her to another side of the forest far away from him. She stops, completely lost, as every direction looks the same: mountains, rocks, and endless trees. So she pulls out a scope and from a distance spots a kayak, deciding she has to reach it before Ben catches her again. But suddenly she hears his terrifying scream, one that even scares the birds away. And when she looks again through the lens, she sees him heading straight toward her. So she quickly hides behind a tree, tries to peek again, and locks eyes with him as he smiles in a chilling way, making it clear he already knows where she is. And although she wants to escape both him and the forest, she chooses to retreat back into the rocky cave to hide. And when Ben arrives, he scans the area and starts shouting in his disturbing voice to scare her into revealing herself. And she nearly loses control, but manages to hold on until she's sure he's gone. Then climbs out again, while he assumes he has already finished her off, unaware that she is now planning to steal his kayak. And from a distance, she sees him jumping into the river beside it, so she carefully makes her way down and swims toward it as quietly as possible. But he spots her and fires an arrow, forcing her to rush. Yet her leg gets caught in a trap, and he drags her toward him. And when she sprays him with pepper spray, it barely slows him down as he washes it off and continues. Then threatens her with his weapon and orders her to drop the spray in exchange for releasing her leg. And when she does, he keeps his word, but then coldly approaches her, tries to feed her fruit, and leaves her tied up all night in the rain while he stays in his cabin, his eyes red from the spray but unaffected, watching her like a predator. And when he comes close, he starts talking about how teeth can define identity, explaining how some tribes sharpen them as a rite of passage, his eyes filled with madness as he speaks, while Sasha silently studies her surroundings, thinking of any possible way to escape. And by morning, he drags her into the river, rowing while revealing that he knows her name from the ranger's records. And when she asks him not to mention it because it reminds her of her husband, he pretends to be sympathetic, but she keeps searching for a chance. And when she notices the rope binding her, she tries to loosen it, but he quickly realizes what she's doing, flips her into the water, and drags her behind him like prey, showing no mercy as she continues to struggle desperately just to survive, even though she knows she's running out of options. He drags her back to a cave hidden between the mountains. And when they descend inside, she is horrified to find preserved corpses, realizing this is where she is meant to end. And he grabs her as she begs for mercy, but she tries to reach him emotionally, asking what made him this way, which angers him as he steps closer and asks if she truly sees something wrong with him. And with no real choice, she carefully responds that maybe people hurt him in the past and that she's sorry for what happened to him. But before she can continue, he calmly removes his dentures, revealing his real teeth, sharpened exactly like he described earlier, and forces her to touch them as she trembles in fear, begging him to stop. And suddenly he disappears from in front of her, as if vanishing in an instant, leaving her calling out and searching for him until he reappears with a terrifying scream and lunges at her, grabbing her and trying to break her spirit. But she refuses to give up and instead distracts him by asking about a photo she saw. And when he doesn't answer, she guesses it's his mother because she looks like him, which triggers him as he asks if she knows the last thing his mother said to him, repeating it obsessively. And she begins to understand his twisted attachment as he reveals he wants to preserve her just like his mother, explaining that only those who resist him are worthy of being preserved, while others are just bodies, and realizing she has no other option. Sasha fights back, biting his ear until he collapses in pain, allowing her to break free and run as he chases her. And they both fall into the river where the current and waterfalls slam them against the rocks, unable to hold on to anything until they reach a calmer point, but are separated. And he hits his head and loses consciousness, giving her a chance to try and free herself, but she can't fully escape. So she uses a heavy rock to pin him down while she works on the rope. Yet he suddenly regains consciousness and attacks again, leading to a brutal struggle where neither can overpower the other until he grabs her by the throat and starts choking her, nearly killing her, but hesitates at the last moment, and she uses that instant to strike back, smashing his leg repeatedly with the rock until it breaks, leaving him screaming in agony with a severe injury that finally weakens him. Both of them lie there motionless for a while, exhausted from the fight, as if it's a moment of rest for Sasha, but only a pause for Ben. And from the shock and injuries, Sasha starts mumbling incoherently, her words scattered, but all circling around one thing. She survived because she refused to listen to him and never gave up, just like we saw from the very beginning. And as the river rises around them, she notices the mountain ahead, realizing that the exit isn't far, but it's all the way at the summit, while going back would mean a 12-day journey with no supplies. So when she says climbing is their only option, Ben mocks her, saying she should have just died quietly, but she ignores him and offers a deal. Either he frees her and they tie their climbing ropes together so she can help him reach the top, or his injured leg will rot and he'll die anyway. And of course, he chooses survival. But as she gets closer, he threatens her with his weapon, and she coldly warns him she's not like him and gives him seconds to unlock her cuffs, forcing him to comply while threatening to cut the rope if she betrays him. And they tie themselves together with the main rope attached to him and a secondary line controlling her. And she begins climbing, adjusting the rope into the rocks each time while he watches her suspiciously. And at one point, he thinks she's trying to get rid of him, which she actually is, and jerks the rope, almost making her fall, reminding her of their agreement. But she snaps back, stepping on his injured leg and telling him she's only securing the rope, and eventually she reaches a stable point and prepares to pull him up. But he keeps talking, provoking her by bringing up Ace and asking what he looked like when he fell, as if he were flying. And she responds only with a look of pure hatred, securing him in place, while realizing he has no idea how climbing works. And as she reaches a safer position, she finally decides to end it, setting a trap by tying his rope to a branch between the rocks so that if he pulls, it would only affect that line. And when she starts freeing herself, he begins pulling aggressively, but she holds on until finally he loosens the rope himself to see what she'll do. And in that exact moment, she cuts his line, sending him crashing down as his head smashes against the rocks, killing him instantly and ending the nightmare at last. She kills him and finally escapes the nightmare that trapped her. But her struggle isn't over yet, because she has to continue climbing with no safety at all, facing the most dangerous part of the mountain, the same kind of slope that once cost Ace his life. And despite the wounds covering her body, she refuses to give up. And just like at the beginning when her footing kept slipping, it happens again now. Only this time, there is nothing to catch her, yet she keeps telling herself she won't fall after everything she's been through, determined not only to survive, but to report what she discovered and give justice to the victims whose bodies she found. And after an exhausting climb, she finally reaches the summit, realizing that everything she endured was not only to save herself, but to understand what Ace felt in his final moments and to bring him peace. And from there, she continues walking through the forest with no clear direction until night falls completely, forcing her to drink from the river just to keep going. And at last, she encounters a family in a car who rescue her and take her to safety, bringing her to the ranger station the officer had warned her about, where the first thing she says is that she knows where all the bodies are, and soon helicopters arrive and the truth is uncovered, revealing decomposed remains, preserved corpses, and victims who had been missing for years, finally giving closure to their families. And as Sasha stands by the shore, regaining her strength, she feels a sense of relief, knowing she didn't just free herself, but also freed many lost souls and gave peace to countless loved ones. And in the end, when she hears the same distant scream again, she simply ignores it, realizing it's just a bird this time, and the lesson becomes clear. Sometimes survival isn't just about escaping death, but about facing it, enduring it, and choosing to keep going no matter how impossible it seems.